Bum, bum, bum. Well, we are live. This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone. At least I think we're live. Yes, we are. How's it going? So, if you are new to this channel, let's just get the housekeeping out of the way. If you are new to this channel, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it. I want to thank you for coming and watching. First of all, for those of you that put in the comments on these live videos that I didn't get to the point for the first 10 minutes or whatever, there's a little scroll thing down there that you can fast forward, as much as you want and get to whatever you want. Just kind of skip forward until you find whatever you were looking for, whether that be, the main topic or not, because we are doing this live. So we have 450 videos on this channel, something like that, almost 500 actually. We talk all about guitar tone, guitar tech, how-tos, recording stuff, how guitars work, all that kind of stuff. So if you're new to this channel, that's what this channel is. This show on Fridays is this is live, and this is kind of this is what is on my mind this week and stuff that I've seen in the news and kind of how it affects us as guitar players and that sort of stuff. So that's what we're chatting about today. So in order to get where you need to get, just use a little scroll bar and you'll figure it out. We'll put some links in the comments below to some of the stuff. I'll do it after the show, some of the stuff we talk about, etc., some show notes, stuff like that. So just to get the housekeeping out of the way, everybody keeps asking me I watched for 10 minutes and I didn't see what I wanted to see. Well, this is live, and right, 60 minutes doesn't put the cool stuff at the first part of the show. Come on. It's how it works. It's what we do. And also make sure that you check out the chat. So if you look in the chat, you'll be able to comment live, and as we go ahead and talk through all this stuff, then you'll be able to participate as well and kind of be a part of what we are doing. So that's it. So let's kind of get right into what we've got going today. I wanted to bring up a couple of things here. We got some interesting stuff. This isn't great news. Here, hang on. There we go. This isn't great news. Steven Adler, he's had a lot of problems with substance abuse over the years. Obviously, he's the drummer for Guns N' Roses, and apparently he stabbed himself yesterday in the stomach and was taken to the hospital. It doesn't look like it's a life-threatening situation. It looks like they'll be able to help him, but hopefully that means that he gets moved on to the help that he needs so that he can have a better life than that. Yeah, that's a tough deal. The next thing I want to show you is this right here. So Schecter has been making the reproductions of Prince's cloud guitar, whenever he needed one, and we've seen Bruno Mars play one. We've seen a few people over the years play these things. It's really cool. It's a crazy shape. It's a mahogany guitar with EMG pickups, 24 and 24/7/5 scale, so like a Gibson scale. Kind of a cool guitar, really. Crazy shape, right? Very Prince. And you can go to Prince's website. I think that his estate has a Prince website that you can go to and buy this. It's going to be about $1,700, I think. And they're going to start making them the end of the year. So it's kind of cool. Kind of another thing in the news this week. So that was that. I just wanted to share those couple things before we kind of get into our main topic today. Let's just real quick check our comments section and see. Oh, we got a few people. Watching, so thank you very much. Yeah, so also I'm drinking coffee again. I drank tequila last week. I did go get another bottle. I'll share that with you probably next week. I'm not feeling well today. It's been a really busy week. I've been busting my tail doing a ton of stuff, and I'm just literally worn out. So I say busting my tail doing a ton of stuff. It's just been a busy week. We have some crazy things going on around the house and around Dylan Talks Tone and music@mascara.com that we'll get to here in the future. But it's been really crazy. As you can see, we've rearranged the office yet again. We're selling a bunch of stuff. I'm selling all of my guitar gear, actually, except for my Kemper and a couple of guitars. We're just trying to simplify down. I got way too much stuff. Sold a bunch of pedals this week, sold a bunch of just random gear and stuff. So, and we're going to get into the details of that later. We want to share that stuff as it comes, because we're still trying to figure it out as we go. But anyway, it's been a very exhausting week, and I think I've got something, and I can't figure out what it is. I can't tell if I've got a cold or if I've got a little bit of a flu or something. I'm not really sure. So I'm not 100% on today. So our show won't be quite as long today, I'm pretty sure. But we'll see. We'll just see where the conversation takes us, right? So you saw the thumbnail for this video. Is Fender actually going to put me out of business? It's a good question. And it's possible that they're going to put a lot of small guys put the squeeze on us. And here's why. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this. Let me show you. And then we're going to get into some technical stuff. Last week was kind of all editorial stuff and about that Gibson junk and all that. We're going to get into some technical stuff today, and I think you're going to dig it. So I want to talk about Fender's new Vintera series. So this is these are all made in Ensenada, Mexico. So this is a Mexican series of guitars. It's like a play on words of vintage era. So Vintera series. And if you see here, they've got a Vintera 50 Stratocaster, a Vintera 50 Stratocaster modified, a Vintera 60 Stratocaster, Vintera 60 Stratocaster modified, 70s, and then they've got tellies, one with a Bigsby now. Crazy stuff, man. And I'm going to break down to you what they're doing here, and we're going to talk about some specifics. And people wonder about guitar setup. We're going to talk about some guitar setup stuff too, and this will help you visualize some problems that people get into. The reason I say that Fender might put me out of business with this whole line of guitars is because they're doing some things that it's like anything else. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, to get Bluetooth in a car, you had to go buy an aftermarket stereo and put Bluetooth in it, and then you could like Bluetooth your phone in a car. Now it comes with it factory, right? That's happening a lot with the guitar stuff now. So the modifications that you would make to a Mexican Stratocaster or Telecaster, they're actually putting into these guitars already. Are they going to be as good as the stuff we make? Probably not, but Tim Shaw is super smart, and because they have to come to a cost, right? So they're building it to a cost still. But there's a few things that I found very interesting about this series of guitars. One is they're going to Alnico pickups instead of the ceramic bar magnet pickups that they've put in Mexican guitars since about 2006, I think, somewhere right in there. So the 50s Stratocaster is going to have Alnico 5 pickups in it. The 60s Stratocasters are going to have Alnico 5 pickups in them. The 50s Telecaster are going to have Alnico 2 pickups in the neck and Alnico 3 pickups in the bridge. And then the newer stuff, the modified 60s are going to have Alnico 5 pickups. So very specific to what happened in the 50s and 60s. Those changes. There's going to be heavy form var in the 50s guitars, and there's going to be plain enamel wire in the 60s guitars, just like there was. I find this very interesting. The neck profiles are going to change. So that chunky V shape on the Strat, that's on a 50s guitar, The C shape is going to be on the 60s guitar, just like it was. That U shape on a 50s Tele and the C shape on a 60s Tele. So just exactly kind of the breakdown of what they were on a guitar that, look, is $899, $999. This is a fantastic price point. And I just really think this is very cool. And they're quality guitars. These are going to be really good guitars. And then now these modified ones, so like the modified Tele, for instance, is going to have, this modified Tele is going to have an S1 switch, so you can go out of phase. And it's going to have a 4-way switch, so you can do series and parallel. Super cool, man. The other thing is the fret sizes change from 50s to 60s and from modified to not modified, which is really, really cool. The fretboard radius will go from 7 1/4 on some of the older style guitars to 9 1/4, 9.5 on some of the newer ones, just like normal. I really, really think that this is, and they're making all of these kind of options available at a great price point. It's really, really cool. I mean, is it a Dylan custom guitar? No. Is it going to have hand wound pickups in it? No. Which you would have with, what we build. But I just think, for the most part, this is a killer setup. The tuners and stuff, they're going to be specific to the time period. So the 70, hang on. I knew I had a hair on me and it was just really bugging me. So the 70s ones will have that, that F style, 70s style tuner. The 60s ones and the 50s ones will have like the Clusen double line style tuner. Are they going to be the same quality of a real Clusen? Don't know. Have to see it. They're obviously probably still built to kind of a price, obviously. Makes sense because it's kind of the entry level into the nicer guitar that Fender makes. I think it's going to be a great guitar. I think these are going to be the best. This is my opinion, but I haven't played one yet, but these are going to be the best Mexican guitars that Fender has ever made. And I think that these guitars, and I don't want to get into this whole conversation like Epiphone versus Gibson. My Epiphone is good as any Gibson. My Mexican Tele is as good as any Fender I've ever, American I've ever played. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, because that's a stupid argument. People that do that, it's a waste of time. But what I am saying is, I don't think you need to worry about where the guitar was made. Whether it's a Mexican or an American one. I think you're going to have a good quality instrument with these guitars right here. These are going to be really good. I don't know if they're going to be heavy or not. I'm not real sure if they're going to be heavy or not. I think they're all alder. They're not making any in ash. But still, super, super cool. Now, here, let me bring up our comments here really quick and just see what everybody's saying here. Let's see. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you are correct. That is a B50 and not a B5, which I would not recommend doing. I do not think that those, I've done them, but I don't like them. They're really wiggly in comparison. So, and we'll get into some of your specific questions. I like what I see except for Pale Pharaoh. Dude, you got to get over it. That's all there is to it. They're not dry. There's nothing wrong with them. Pale Pharaoh is a really, really good replacement for Rosewood. If you've played one and you feel like they're dry for bends, first of all, why are you bending on a fretboard? You're bending on the frets. So number one. Number two, take care of the fretboard. A lot of times when you get them in the store, they're super, they're super dried out. They're just not maintained well. And we're going to get into that here in a few minutes. But but Pale Pharaoh is fantastic. It is seriously people are going to just have to get over this mental obstacle in their head, because if I hand you one of my guitars and told you it was rosewood, you would not know the difference. You would not be able to tell. I've done it. I've handed my rich light guitars to people and told them it was ebony. I've handed my pale pharaoh guitars to people and I've told them it was rosewood. Just flat out lied to them, and they go, oh yeah, it feels great. They don't even know. It's a mental thing. This is guitar players playing with their eyes and not their ears. That's all there is to it. So that is just a thing that we just have to get to it. Because that's the way we're going, these alternative materials. So, and this is a few things I want to talk about here. One is, I was watching a video and I was listening to the vice president of product development for Fender guitars, and he was talking about Leo Fender and how Leo Fender developed all this stuff. And he was basically saying, he's like, here's the deal. Leo Fender built guitars because he wanted them to be cheaper. He wanted to never waste any materials, and he wanted to make sure that the guitars stayed in budget for players. So let's talk about a few things that everybody puts a bunch of into all this mythology, and it's just a bunch of crap because they don't know the facts of why. Okay? So, first of all, let's talk about beveled magnets versus flat top magnets. Beveled magnets happened because allegedly a shipment of magnets got damaged and the corners of them were chipped, and Mr. Fender did not want to waste them, so they ground bevels on them and they made bobbins with them. So they just didn't want to waste them. The other legend that goes into this, there's two stories kind of floating around, and the other is that they beveled them to make them easier to assemble because they didn't cut bobbins and waste bobbins. Either way, it had nothing to do with tone. It was not a tonal situation. Cloth wire was because PVC wasn't even invented for consumer. Well, it was invented, but it was for military use only at that time. The 40s and 50s were just coming out of World War II. Submarines, PVC wire, no cloth, military use, not really anything to do with normal consumer use. And so not until later was PVC used. Has nothing to do with tone. All of those things that keep running around the internet were just so, there's nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it. The same thing with wire. So, but that does make a difference in the sound, obviously, like heavy form var versus poly versus, well, not poly, but heavy form var versus plain enamel. The thickness of the insulation on the wire, that makes a big difference in the sound of the pickup. The type of insulation, not so much, but the thickness of the insulation makes a big deal. So yeah, stuff changed from 50s to 60s. They went from Alnico 2 and 3 magnets to Alnico 5. He said there are some years, and he wouldn't say which ones. He said that, but there were some years where there were mistakes made, and they got a shipment of Alnico 2 or 3 magnets and instead of 5s by accident, and they just put them in guitars. So, they're not going to waste material. Like, everything that they did was a practicality decision. So everybody that wants to make all these things up about what tone is are wasting their time. Now, there's a couple things that are very, very interesting that I think people overlook. Hang on, my nose is itchy. And I think a lot of times we put these in wrong combinations. Okay, so for instance, let's just talk about this for a second. So let's talk about fretboard radius, fret size, and neck profile. I'm going to bring this picture of this website back up. Okay, so let's look at this really fast. you see you have the C shape, the U shape, and the V shape, okay? The early guitars had U shape and V shape necks, and they had very small frets. If you think back, all of the early guitars, so like even early Gibsons, early Fenders, they all had very tiny frets, most of them. The medium jumbo came into play when they switched to the C-shaped neck. Also, the medium jumbo came into play when they started doing different neck radiuses, like in the late 70s, so 9.5, for instance. The reason for this is because when you change, there's three things that go into a neck dimension. One, okay, well, maybe more than three, but the three we're going to talk about and how they interact is, first of all, you're going to have your neck taper. So you're going to have the thickness of the first fret and the thickness at the 12th fret, and the difference between that's like how straight it is or how much it tapers, right? That's the actual piece of wood. And then you're going to have this shape. So the V shape, the U shape, or the C shape, okay? Obviously. And then we're going to have the fretboard radius on top of the neck. And then we're going to have the fret size. The thing I think people don't realize when they're speccing a guitar, because we get these questions all the time on a custom guitar. Well, I want this fret, I want this neck shape, and I want this fretboard radius. And I'm like, well, those don't really go together. Fender was smart by putting a 7 1/4 on a V-shaped neck. Here's why. I'm going to show you something here. This is just a picture I found on the internet. So this is what radius of a fretboard is. It's a curve on the top, right? So we have a 9.5 on the right side over here, and this is basically like it's if you had a circle that was 9.5 inches in radius from here to here, that's the curve that you would get. 7 1/4, it would be shorter, so it would be taller. But you notice what has happened to the center of the neck. It has gotten taller. So if we have the same neck shaft dimensions, the center of it has gotten taller. See that? Now, what happens if you put medium jumbo frets on top of that? Then that gets really tall from here to here to here. So and what will happen is that neck will feel huge in your hands. So if you do a 7 1/4 fretboard radius, and then you do a U-shaped neck with medium jumbo frets, probably, chances are, you're going to have fret out problems. And you're going to have, people talk about 7 1/4 fretboard radius is going to fret out on the higher frets and all that. It's literally because there's a combination of situations there paired with a bad setup that make that happen. So ask a lot of questions when you're having a neck designed, because all of that comes into play. One of the things that happens with a flatter fretboard radius too is the outsides of the outside edges will start to come up because it's so flat, and the middle will come down. This is one of the reasons why there's a couple things here. This is one of the reasons why some guitars need shims. This is why some guitars don't. This is also why some guitars are harder to intonate than others. Not harder, but they intonate in different places completely. That's why you can't just look at one and go, oh, well, if I put 10s on this guitar and 10s on this guitar, they're going to be the same. That's why you have to be able to adjust it, because it changes how the string pulls down to the fretboard when you have different fret sizes and stuff. So it all works together. So when we have people call us and order guitars and we're building a neck from scratch and really talking through all of those options, it's very interesting that Fender in this situation has paired big frets with a 9.5 inch radius, little frets with a 7 1/4 radius, and then the slab of the fretboard makes a difference. All of that. That's why some tellies have shims and some don't. And that's why it doesn't really matter, because it's all about getting the guitar playable. It's getting it to the point where the attack is right, the angles are right, and that's why that's the most important part, setup wise. So interesting stuff. I just really, really dig what Fender has done with this whole thing, and I like what they're saying. I really like the layout. I think it's really, really cool. Let's see. Let's go. And I apologize if we're not going to go very long today, but like I said, I'm not really feeling that good. So let's see. Let's go through some of these comments. I've been watching your videos and wanted to upgrade the pots and switch in my telly. Any brand do you recommend? Absolutely. Shoot me a message. Here. You know what? There's absolutely a brand I would recommend. Duh. Let's just take the time and show you right now, since we're just hanging out for a moment. He doesn't want to do a telly, right? Let's see. I'm already forgetting. My brain is blah, 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 blah. Today. Where is it? Telly. Yeah. Okay. Hang on one second. I'm going to show you what you should use right now. I'm going to shoot a link in here. If it doesn't hot link it, it's because it's YouTube, and YouTube is kind of stupid. So you can, when it comes to this, so you can go ahead and just take this link and throw this in, just copy and paste this link into your browser. And in fact, here, we'll throw this up on the screen here, and I'll show you what I'm giving you. All right. So let me send you that. Okay. So there's that. And then let's real quick give you this picture in picture real fast. So we have two options here. Well, there's a few options. We have our pre-wired tele control plate with wiring and pots. We sell tons of these in black, gold, and chrome. We make a lot of these things, man. You can choose the capacitor that you want to use. For a telly, I personally use a 0.047, which is really wrong, but it works amazing. And then you can ask for a three-way switch. It says three-way here, but there's another product. If you want a four-way, that one is here. So the four-way pre-wired tele control plate is here. So we can do that series deal that was talked about earlier in the mods. And then we're going to use Bourne's pots, and we're going to use Oak Grigsby switches and orange drop caps. And we have all this stuff on the website. You can go and buy it. If you did that, that would be amazing, because that's what keeps all of this going for us. So I really appreciate the support there. Yeah, so that's that. If you have questions about that, keep popping them in the comments, and I will try to keep up. Let's see. I like what I see, except the pale ferrule fretboard. Yeah, like I said, that's just a mental thing. That's all that is. Just a mental thing. Let's see. Get Sergeant says Switchcraft. Yeah. Bourne's pots or CTS. I like Bourne's because they're easier to solder. You're right. And I like how the action of them works. They work fantastic. No basswood bodies. Yeah, that's true. They didn't do any basswood. It makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with basswood. We actually built a few guitars out of basswood. I really like it. Basswood is another one of those myth things. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with a basswood guitar. In fact, some of your highest end signature guitars for some of your guitar players are made out of basswood because they want the weight to be light. That's all about how it plays and how it feels, right? It's not a tone thing. There's nothing wrong with it. The only thing you got to worry about is like stripping out screws and stuff. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. And yeah, Paulina or whatever, however you say that, that stuff is crazy. So that stuff is really, really light. It's so light and it's so soft that you have to actually put like maple inserts in it to make sure that you don't strip out bridge screws and stuff, because it's really, really light. But it's very cool. It works really good. Do you think this is Fender's response to Gibson's classic line and that Fender's modern series will be made in Corona? I don't think anything crosses over at all. I don't think Fender is looking at any other brands right now. I think they are trying to, they're actually selling a lot of guitars. Everybody wants to say stuff about the guitar industry and stuff, but they're actually selling a lot of guitars, and their lower price models sell a lot of guitars, and they sell to younger players. I've said this for many, many years. There's no reason to focus on old guys. Like, it doesn't, they're going to die. This is what I say, and I know I'm right. The main demographic for guitar players is like 35 to 65 years old. If you are shooting for that as your main demographic to sell guitars to, you are doing it wrong. If you are in any kind of business and you are trying to sell from 35 to 65, you're doing it wrong. And here's why. Because they're going to die. They're going to stop buying. And by the time they're gone, like the baby boomers are gone, technology and the way the world works and everything will have moved on, and you will not have replaced that demographic with anybody younger. So to tell a 15 or 18-year-old kid that he could buy this made in Mexico guitar with a pale ferrule fretboard, and he doesn't care about rosewood because he don't know the difference, it doesn't matter. You're making a fan of a 15 to 18-year-old kid who can afford an $800 guitar. And then you have a whole lifetime of a player to bring him along in your brand. That's what we do. That's why we focus on people that play Squires and play lower price guitars. And then our entry-level guitar, our custom entry-level guitar is $1,149. And then our other custom guitars start at $1,500 because they're more attainable. And we are reaching a younger audience, and we're making a lifetime, kind of a lifetime member of the club, instead of looking for this very exclusive crowd of people. And that's why I don't care. That's why I do not. That's not why. The reason I don't care is because it doesn't matter about basswood, pale ferro, rich light. That stuff. At the end of the day, when you're listening to the radio, when you're playing a show on Friday night, none of that stuff matters. It's a mental game that the industry has played on people, and they have bought into it for so long that it has caused people to spend way too much time focusing on the wrong things. So that's why I don't care about any of that stuff. I just don't. Because young people don't. Young people don't care. You could tell, I could take a 15-year-old kid from the street right now who's never played guitar or who has played guitar since he was 5 and give him a guitar with a rich light fretboard, and he ain't going to care. He's going to play it. And he's going to plug it into an iPad, and he's going to use an iRig, and he's going to use a Kemper. He's going to use modern things. He's not going to care. But you know what? In 20 years from now, when the 60-year-old guy is dead, that kid is going to be my customer still. That's the thing. So it's a really kind of harsh pill to swallow, but it's true. I mean, you'll hear me. I talk about this all the time. And Dave Wong, you're right. People are they're gonna keep upgrading stuff, right? That's the nature of the beast. Like, people, we love to upgrade stuff. I bought a brand new car like a month and a half ago, and I've got a list. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. We have a list. We want to do little things and play and stuff, and it's super fun. So it makes sense. So what is a slab fretboard? So this is an interesting one. Let me go back to this picture really fast. And this is a kind of a crude drawing that we just showed you a minute ago. So a slab fretboard literally is a piece of wood that is glued to the top of the fretboard and then milled to that shape. For some time, probably in the 60s, right? Somewhere right in there. Let me see if I can find. Fender did, and I was just working on a bass actually the other day, a 60s bass that had like a laminated fretboard. And let's see if I can find a picture really fast. Yeah, here we go. So here, I'll show you. And basically what they do is they take a very thin, they radius the fretboard. So this is the difference between a slab fretboard and a laminate. So did you see on, if we look at really quick, this, see how this is flat right here? And then the fretboard is on there and then it's milled. So now let's go over to the laminate fretboard and see how they radius the actual neck. And then they glued a thin piece on top of it. That's the difference. They did this in the 60s for a little while. It's just a thing that they did. There's really no difference to it. It's probably, I don't know for sure because I don't care. I've never really looked into it that much. Good grief, my nose is itchy. But I'm pretty sure that it would lend itself to being more difficult to refret a lot of times. Where a slab fretboard is thicker, so you just have more wood to work with. Can a defective ceramic capacitor make your guitar circuit microphonic? No, because it will just stop working. Ceramics can cause, there are certain capacitors that can cause microphonic issues in like a pedal and stuff. I've talked to Robert Keeley about this quite a bit. Like the way they have select their capacitors so that like when you tap on the pedal, there's no microphonics and there's stuff like that. Does not have anything in a guitar. It will just stop working. Yeah. Let's see. Why do you think people have this unhealthy fake hatred toward Gibson? The overwhelming majority of real life Gibson owners love their guitars, have never had issues, and know they are high quality. Because they're keyboard warriors. That's all there is to it. I love Gibson guitars. I think they're amazing. I'm not a fan. Like, I need to have every one. But I would really like to have an SG, and I would really like to have an Explorer. Like, those are really on my list. Really, really on my list. I want them bad. So I just haven't. But I haven't done it. I just haven't done it. I agree. So let's see. I just saw that you're live. At the beginning, I learned all the guitar tech stuff from you. Thanks. Oh, no problem. Thank you. Wasn't your first Batfish made from basswood? No, alder. Actually, all of the Batfishes we have made, except for one, has been alder. I tried it in mahogany. I didn't like it. The guy that bought it from me loves it because he's a Les Paul guy. Let's see. Yeah, do me a favor. And if you have questions about the 4-way switch, let's see who's chatting with me about that. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. I apologize. Check it out. If you have a hard time shipping it to your country in the website or whatever, sometimes that happens. Just shoot me a message or an email, and I'll get you hooked up. No problem at all. What's the difference between the bullet and the affinity lines? So the affinity lines are Indonesian, the bullet lines are Mexican, but the bullet lines are gone, and all of this stuff is replacing that. Let's see. Yeah, multicolored fretboard, super cool. 6364. Yeah, you're right. Thank you so much for that. And you're right. You cannot sand it if you have fretting problems. I have seen that where it's chipped out and there's nothing you can do about it. Your thoughts on GM stopping Camaro's production? I don't care really. I'm not a huge. I like guitars. I like cars that can go around corners. So I'm not really. I'm a vintage muscle car guy for the sake of collecting, just like I am a vintage guitar guy for the sake of collecting. Am I going to go spend the money to have them just to have them? No, because when it comes down to it, I want to be able to chuck a car in a corner and have it go around the corner and stick to the road. And so I will buy a 911. Thank you very much, for the same price that you can buy one of them super fancy Camaros anyway. So I don't really care. Are they cool? Absolutely. I'm just not. I like things differently. I would have one. I mean, if I had 20 cars in the garage, would the Camaro be on the list? It would be at the bottom. The Corvette, I mean, I've had one. It would be at the bottom. They're just not that great, in my opinion. Maybe Concave Radius would be easier to be played. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that funny meme on Facebook where they've like totally scalloped out the guitar, like super, like an inch, and it's just insane? Yeah, that'd be crazy. Explorers are very comfortable to play sitting and standing. You know, I haven't had one. Randy, did you sell your Hellcat? Because I see you said sucked as in past tense. I never got to come up there and drive that thing. But I agree. Everything I've seen about them says they're just a wallowing pig in the corners. They're fast in a straight line, and drag racing is cool, but no, I'd have to chuck something around a corner to make it fun. But, we're getting way off topic, but I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. This has been really fun. Make sure you do me a favor and follow and subscribe. You can see the links there. We've got a Facebook page. We've got a YouTube channel, obviously. This is where we are. Instagram, Dylan Talks Tone. If you have any questions at all about any of this stuff, if you need anything, I totaled it. Oh, my gosh. You're going to have to tell me that story one of these days, dude. Is a vintage wound single coil 5.5K more dynamic than a highly overwound 10K? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's more frequency response to work with there. So the more wire you put on a coil, the more it flattens out the top. And what I tell people is, and what you can really feel when you play, is a lower output pickup does like this much. A higher output pickup does like this much. So why not just have this and be able to do that too? So wider dynamic range, wider dynamic range. That's really the thing. Yeah, that's it. But it doesn't do a thing like hit the amp really hard with more voltage. So it uses less voltage. Or it produces less voltage. So there's a balance there. It just depends on what kind of sound you want to make. Some amps like lots and lots and lots of voltage to come from the pickups, like a 5150, for example. It's designed for that. So, is a Princeton designed for EMGs or a Screaming Demon or a Dimebag? Nope. So that's why I have different amps and stuff. Super fun. You guys, thanks a lot, man. This has been really fun. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Like I said, I was a little off today, but I really do appreciate the chance to be able to hang out with you a little bit. Check our stuff out. And if you need anything, sir, from a different country that I can't say your name, and I apologize, check out that 4-way switch stuff. If you have any questions about it, shoot me an email, and we'll make sure that we get you going. We will talk to y'all soon.